And this one is from Space Tomato. And it's the biggest feature of 2022 and how it could change Star Citizen. He's got to be talking about PES. And open your copium tanks, because I imagine we're huffing on it in this video, but let's see.
For us, we were looking, okay, what was going to define the experience? That's the big vision of Star Citizen. And really for us, when we hit these milestones, then for us, we say, okay, I think this will be the core experience and tech that will deliver the vision of Star Citizen.
It doesn't really...
None of that explained what Star Citizen is. Also, yeah, pointing out that that was 2018 is not a good start to this video.
It doesn't really matter what you think of Star Citizen. The line has been drawn into the sand as to what the game's future depends on. What few features will actually determine the release of the game? We all know the big piece
is server meshing.
Server meshing.
Server meshing.
The server mesh.
Yeah.
Server meshing.
Server meshing.
Server meshing.
Server meshing.
Server meshing. And then the server meshing.
Obviously, server meshing is important and is scheduled to release with Alpha 4.0 next year. But server meshing, a topic we'll cover in depth later in the year, is a late-stage goal propped up by many pieces of technology that were developed and implemented throughout the last 5 years. The latest and largest of these pieces of tech is global persistence. This key piece of tech will be enabled by persistent entity streaming, or PES, completely changing the way items age and exist over a large amount of time and space in the universe. So this entity streaming is clearly the most important thing coming to the game this year, and it's scheduled for the next big update. But what will it do to change the game for you, and when will you get to try it? Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk.
Peace. I don't think we're going to know when we get to try it by the end of this video, but yeah.
Have you ever heard Chris Roberts talk about his coffee cup in the forest?
I take my Elroy's cup, get my coffee, and I take it with me. I get on the spaceship. I fly to a planet. I walk in a forest, drop it on the floor in the forest. And then Sean flies to the forest and sees an Elroy cup when he arrives in that area. So,
And I grab it and I sell it.
yeah, there you go.
It comes up at least once a year, I swear. But you can tell how important this whole idea is to him. The idea of being able to travel to any corner of the star system, leave or remove any interactable object, and leave a lasting effect in that place for others to see and discover across any number of situations is a big deal. It's a big part of a game being an MMO, having that
It's a big deal, but it's something that is just expected to be there. It's not the thing that you make YouTube videos about, I guess, right? Like in a perfect world, we wouldn't even think about it. Well, persistence is a huge part of an MMO, so yeah.
persisting impact, and it makes a huge difference in a game that focuses so much on tactile experiences. This is the idea behind global persistence, not to be mistaken with player persistence or baby persistence, which came with Star Citizen Alpha 3.8. While a big deal, that was simply a way for items, inventories, wallets, and other personal objects to persist between updates. Global persistence does not depend on item ownership or location. It applies to shipwrecks, vehicles, weapons, loot, dropped cargo, valuable relics, and more. You'll now be able to leave a stash of items and loot out in the forest to pick up later if need be. You'll be able to stock up your ships with food, weapons, and supplies for your guests to truly live out in space for days or weeks at a time. You could set up your own FPS or racing arenas out in a crater on some moon. Players can leave ships and items to mark locations for resource deposits, allowing
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going with. Will you be able to? Is sort of where I was going to go with this. It's very, very absolutes that Tomato's going with here. And yeah, we don't have those tools in a lot of ways yet. And to be honest, there's going to be a Q&A session this week on SCL for PES. And I think a lot of questions are going to be answered about just exactly what we're going to be able to do on the first release of this thing. And yeah, I'm not buying it. That all this stuff, you know, it all could be possible one day, but I mean, it's 3 months late to even getting in our hands.
Explorers to easily sell location data. Global persistence has always been one of the major pillars of Star Citizen needed for release. And even though it isn't the most immediately noticeable addition, it will definitely have effects that can be seen and appreciated daily. It's also going to lead the way for other improvements we've been waiting for. Salvage gameplay, scheduled for the same update as PES, depends on persistent damage maps on ships to show exactly how a ship has received damage even weeks prior. It also depends on the tech to keep destroyed ships in the game as salvageable derelicts. The cargo refactor is physical.
I think one of the other big things he might mention it is like resources, right? They talked about one day having resources be finite, and that's when, you know, you still have to make the resources mean something and be more useful than they are now. But if they become finite, it does become something to fight over.
Localizing cargo, and needs a system that can track all of those specific pieces of cargo, allowing them to interact with and be saved by any player. Persistent hangars will eventually give our ships a permanent home where we can store cargo, machinery, items, and hangar flare in our favorite locations. Persistent habs will give us a permanent home to come back to with all of our earnings, trophies, or cool spaceship-themed bed sheets.
It's actually one of the things I look
Wear
forward
and
to the
tear
most.
was
Both
implemented to
things.
show the time a ship might spend between repairs, or the time a ship had spent in a certain environment. With persistence, we can reliably expect to see weeks or months of buildup to actually show up on the ship consistently day in, day out. Even base building, as far off as it might be, will 100% need this to work if we want all players to be able to visit our settlements at all times. And of course, the big one, server meshing. The feature that aims to turn Star Citizen into a viable MMO and introduce a very unique combination of game technologies to the industry. It's clear that a huge chunk of the game depends on global persistence to work. And like many other features, the addition will cause a snowball effect of other features.
Not a huge chunk. I mean, it is whatever you want to call it. Getting a large number of players into one place and able to interact with the game world together is what an MMO is. And you could call it whatever you want, server meshing. It doesn't matter what the name of it changes to, because it might. If it doesn't happen, and if it doesn't happen relatively soon, I can't understand how CIG and Star Citizen can continue to have the hype and the funding that it's getting now. I think they're still wildly successful with funding and everything, and it's mind-blowing to me at this point, because I can't find the reasons to buy into the game anymore. And it seems like the new blood is just as gullible as I was, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. So maybe they can keep going forward, and eventually they hit that goal. But it's so paramount, and it's so paramount to get it done relatively soon. Because I do think people are starting to get fed up. I notice, you know, it's kind of crazy, because I've always been a little bit more on the negative side of things, because I've always wanted more for Star Citizen, and I got a lot of pushback when I first started making content, and I get very little now, because I think more people are starting to feel the same way I do, and not like see the light or anything, but it's just they're starting to get frustrated.
Features being developed. But while the whole game seems to depend on global persistence is actually enabled by the 3.18 feature known as persistent entity streaming. So let's look into the actual feature, how it works, and when we might actually be able to get our hands on it.
I feel like he's made this video a few times now, though, you know?
So it's good to draw the distinction between global persistence, which is the function of the game that we're looking for, and persistent entity streaming, which is the actual feature that makes that function possible. It's not a huge deal, but if you feel like getting deeper into how all of this works, it's good to know. So persistent entity streaming is the actual streaming in and out of data from a graph-like structure that...
See, this is like his channel's very much based on the game's development and things like that. I don't find this interesting, right? Like he said, it's good to know. Usually it would be good to know for a player of the game to like learn how to take advantage and use certain systems to their advantage to gain an edge on their competitors or level up faster or whatever, right? I don't need to know how persistent entity streaming works. I just need it to work. I just need it to work, man. That's it. I need to, when the server crashes or when I log out, to be in the same place when I did with all my stuff. That's it. I just need it to work.
Tracks every entity across.
Like, this is no offense to Tomato, because this is what interests him. But I do think that I'm not in the minority here, or not a overwhelming minority that just doesn't care how the tech works. I just need it to work for once, you know? And that's it.
Across every instance in every server of the game.
But you wanted open
the
development?
graph that the persistent entity streaming service pulls data from is called the entity graph. Many of you may recognize the entity graph as the replacement for the old iCache system. This entity graph replaced the iCache as the backup database for everything in the Star Citizen universe. No matter what happens, this graph will always know the true record of things, the sacred timeline, if you will. This PES service is able to keep proper record of that data and stream it into the simulation for players using the replication layer, a major part of server meshing. This is the key of persistent entity streaming and how it enables server meshing. By separating the actual data being processed from the simulations taking place in the servers, they are able to coordinate without affecting one another if anything goes wrong, like server crashes. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm introducing way too many things here. If you want to learn more about all of this, check out my video detailing server meshing. I'll be doing another one later in the year, but that's what I've got for now. The important thing to know for this video is that PES is a stream of data that connects the always existent database to the most of the time existent game simulation.
Okay. Here we go.
So when does this actually happen? We know this feature is coming with 3.18, but unlike virtually any updates since the beginning of 2018, this update is based on the content rather than the time. While the company would like to have this out in time for the Q3 update, it's looking unlikely.
It has to be done,
and they're not worried about missing it.
I see what he's saying.
In the same spirit, 3.17.2 was created as a stopgap patch to fill the time with some extra content, while 3.18...
So are we getting 3.17.3 now or something? Like, what are they going to do in the meantime? Because I don't think they should do anything, personally. I think we should just play other games and that's it. If they focus on doing more work that prevents 3.18 from releasing quickly, I think my head's going to explode.
Was essentially delayed to give more time for PES. So CIG feels like they've already made a few mistakes with the rollout of this feature and the communications surrounding it. And those same communications haven't built the most confidence of an exact time we might see it in the future. But we have recently received a progress report on how things are going.
We've moved from a prototypical work branch into what everybody in the company is using to develop the game. And so that's the big achievement, is now the technology is in the game dev branch.
Which
so
is
everybody
huge.
is using it in day-to-day, day in, day out testing. It's been a bit of a crazy time. But that's the big achievement in the last three months, is that we've stabilized the technology enough so that the entire company can now be working on it.
So a recent big milestone has allowed the service to go from a prototype scenario as it was in May to an actual game development tool that the whole company can start to work with.
Yeah, but then he
Now
also
that
said it
that's
was on
been
fire,
complete,
right?
the team of 18 plus engineers is working on the operational status of the service, killing bugs and preparing it for wider testing, aka us. The entire goal in the short term going forward is towards making persistent entity streaming scalable and ready for wider testing. Just keep in mind, as big a deal as this is, it's not going to solve all our FPS, glitchiness, or stability problems that currently exist. This implementation
It's
is
barely gonna
practically
solve
research
anything.
and development work happening on a running game. The company doesn't know the full effects of this system, both good and bad, or the constraints they'll run into, until we're actually testing it. There is a chance that this solution might just be incomplete, and could use several more months of intense work before it's ready to support the game. While we understand the core set of differences we expect this to make, we don't know the variables like how long things will persist, how many entities can be supported before things start imploding, or how exactly CIG will clean up low priority items to avoid a constant mess. Though we have seen janitors in game in the progress tracker, and making criminal players pick up trash would be the best form of combined consequence in game maintenance ever. But overall, what I'm trying to say is, this is a big piece of
Making criminal players pick up trash. You guys want to... How do you guys feel about that one? I don't know if I like that one. Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys seem to like it? I don't know if I like that one, but okay,
tech
you
with
guys
an
seem to like
important
it. I'll
job to
take
do.
it. I'll take it.
And until it's actually into the game's servers and running with thousands of players testing it at all times, we're just not going to know the extent of what is possible with PES. Overall, the next year is looking like a fun adventure of us, the players, figuring all these things out. And that's part of being in the Star Citizen experience. You're able to help build the game that we're all waiting for. When it comes to Star Citizen development, it can oftentimes feel like there are too many features being worked on and not enough functionality being built or fixed. Persistent
Doesn't
entity
feel that
streaming
way.
is one of those
It
rare
is what's
occasions
happening.
when the overall functionality and direction of the game actually takes a huge step forward. While it does fly in the face of bug fixing, considering it will likely make the game more buggy.
The thing is that I don't think is being like clearly communicated here is it has the potential to move things forward much more quickly and open up the doors for them to actually work on stuff, because they basically refused to work on and really develop the game until these systems were in, right? Until you had persistence and server meshing, they weren't going to really go in and do some heavy design on the systems in which we would play the game in. So I don't think it unlocks the ability to rapidly fix issues or rapidly develop the game. It just unlocks the desire for them to finally do it is the vibes that I've got.
With this new functionality, this will undoubtedly lead to a better game in the long run and make some sweeping changes to how we play and perceive it in the short
They couldn't
run.
start in an
Plenty
engine they
can
don't
go wrong,
understand.
and things are going to be bumpy, but this feature is something everyone can be happy about. And there's a lot more to discuss about this feature, but I'll be taking those discussions to my shorter videos and podcasts that I post on my second channel, as well as my live streams, which I do right here 4 times a week. And if you'd like to get more in-depth or just help support this work, you can become a channel member down below and get exclusive higher quality videos every month. Regardless of what you decide to do, I hope to see you again. I hope you learned something new in this one, and I'll catch you in the next.
That was good. I just think it's not the savior. It's the start, right? Like these things are really important for the game to move forward, right? They can't have the excuse of, well, we can't do that until, right? That's a big thing for them that they've been kind of communicating for a very, very, very long time, is this stuff just, yeah, we got to move forward. And this is one of the key features to move forward. I think he communicated that very well at the beginning, like with the Chris Roberts thing. Like, this is when we feel that the game is released. And this is the way, like, if anyone out there is like considering purchasing Star Citizen, or you want to know the history of it, it's pretty simple. It's been kind of trickling out content, if you want to even call it that. Most of it's just visual at this point, to eventually get to the point where this tech actually works. The issue sort of has been over time is all the content that they trickle out makes it more difficult to actually complete this work. But here we are. We're at the kind of doors of persistence at the moment. One of the major features that we need. After that, it would be server meshing. After that, it would be org systems. And then at that point, I think there might have been one or two other minor things, and then they could consider the game released. And there's a difference between what they considered released and what you consider released. And the difference is that this is the foundation of the game. This is what it is. And then from this point forward, every update will be on improving the game instead of making the game a reality, right? That's the difference between what I think most people would expect a release game to what we have now. Like, some people consider the game released now. I see that in chat. I don't believe that, because the difference now is what you're playing in the current servers or whatever current Star Citizen experience isn't Star Citizen. It isn't even remotely Star Citizen, right? Persistence, server meshing, physicalized cargo, quantum, like all those things being in the game are when you start playing Star Citizen. And I think you're just playing the technical alpha of what their engine can do right now. And I think that they've hit the maximum that the current engine can do. And PES is the next step to take it forward. And that's it. And I don't know if it's going to end up being good. I don't know if it's going to end up being bad. But I know that these are the goals that they want to achieve. And then they can just start releasing content updates. We've constantly had technical updates for many, many years now, with little bits of things that you might be able to call content, right? But the entire time they've just been building the game. Now they can build upon the game and improve it over time. And I think that'll be good. I enjoyed that video from Tomato. I don't get excited about the tech stuff. He is so into it, and I love his enthusiasm. And I don't know, even watching his videos enthused me a little bit more about those things. But at the same time, I just want to play something, and that's it. So I'm very comfortable with just waiting for this stuff to kind of start to do something. And if it starts to do something, kind of enjoy it a little bit. And then if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. That's kind of where I'm at the moment.